Hey Richard, what's good?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Playing a video game. Did I mention Balatro last week? It's like a poker hand building game with random elements, and you try to sort of like survive as long as you can by building progressively like more powerful poker hands.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Still
it,
doing that then?
yeah, it's what I've been playing that game. Yeah, lately. What have you been up to since last week? Any developments in your philosophy?
Which one? The different gears? Was I talking about that?
Or just I guess overall, like how are things going for you? Like are you tired or do you have some
Oh, actually,
anything
I'm
planned?
okay, man. I'm okay. Um, I continue to learn and grow. I
Yeah.
had to go back to Ottawa last week. I gotta cook some dinner as we're talking because I'm starving.
Seems like you gotta
I,
go back and forth a lot. Like from Vancouver to Ottawa.
uh, I'm chilling in Toronto. I got my family
Oh yeah.
house here, and I got community now and a nice lady. So I'm. This is more home than Ottawa
Yeah.
ever was. So my my house sitting ends tomorrow morning. So I'm gonna go pick my friend up at the airport, and she's coming back with her kids to take over ownership of the house. But I can hang out here for a little bit longer, I guess.
Any pets or anything in the house?
Nah, she doesn't want any pets.
Oh.
She got no time for that. I think pets could be great, but I'm all about them like going outside and being
Yeah,
out
the
there and
pets are
coming
kind
home.
of pets can be limiting.
Well, I find that like pets, with all our rules and regulations, are limited, right? Like they're animals. I think,
Yeah.
and even us, we should be outside. And so I don't
You can
like
actually
how
do a
like
lot of there's like free house sitting opportunities though. If you can pay like $100 a year to become like a pet sitter, and then people will just like you basically just travel kind of the world almost, staying in people's houses, theoretically like looking after their pets. Uh, but I think it's sort of pretty international, like community of people that need people to just stay with their pets.
nice. Yeah, I think I might have an opportunity like this week. We'll see. But definitely end of the month, I'll have another opportunity. Some friends going away for the week,
Yeah,
so I get to watch their two cats. I mean, I don't really
yeah,
need anything from it either. Like I benefit because I get to hang with animals, and I put my place in Airbnb, which has been shut down. So the city of Ottawa stepped in and said, fuck you, and we want you to jump through hoops and pay us money before we open this back up.
then do you do it?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I need to get a floor plan. That's probably the limiting factor right now. I can do the rest, but the floor plan, I need to actually request it from my condo board.
And what is that? What's the why do they want a floor plan? Some kind of like safety thing?
I honestly don't know. I'd only be guessing. I
Do you
suppose
think that's like
they want to see what the unit looks like. Like they want all the nitty gritty details, and they want to make sure you're legit and have insurance, and so if you don't own your place or if you don't have the ability to act, if you're renting and you don't have like subletting authority, like they want to check for that, right?
yeah.
So, and they are. So I own my condo. So because of that, I technically don't need to go through my condo board to get their blessing to do, even though it's against the bylaws. I do it anyway.
Yeah.
There's no reason for those bylaws to exist in my condo. They can't. There's no argument. So if you have like an apartment style condo, I can understand that, like, there might be arguments with like security and stuff like that, but people should be locking their own personal doors anyway. But damage to common property could be a possibility, right? So that's where I see the board getting involved in creating a bylaw to say no temporary people because they could destroy our common property. I agree. I don't like it, but I agree. But for my unit, there is no common property. None. Zero. Because it's not detached, but it's like a townhouse. So there is no good reason outside of them not wanting me to make money. So I will not follow that rule.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like some rules are there just so they could enforce it if an issue came up, but if everything's like going smoothly, then they can be lenient because if no one's complaining, then it's like they don't need to enforce a rule, they just need it there in case.
Well, people will complain because they don't want people to make money. Or like they don't want new people coming around all the time, right? And I see from their point of view, like there's risk because I could get someone who throws a party because I have no way to discriminate. Airbnb does not let you discriminate. Yeah. So I can't see who I'm opening my unit up to. All I have are the reviews. So if I choose to accept someone with no reviews or one review, that's pretty risky. And I have no way to just like determine who they are. Like, here's the thing is stereotypes exist for a reason. And people, I can't even say it if this is going to be put online because it's just bad, but it's true. And it's based off of personal experience. Certain people will destroy your unit. Certain people will be absolutely perfect and leave it in better shape than they found it, which is nearly impossible with me. But there are people who are even more clean than I am. Mm. And there are some people who are manipulative and they will lie and they will create issues and create work for you in order to get a discount. They will say that your air conditioning unit is broken when it's not, and they will make you go and get a technician who will come in and say, nothing is wrong with your air conditioning unit. The fucking switch has been flipped and I'm leaving and I'm not going to charge any money. That's actually happened. And then the guests are still going to request money for the inconvenience of the air conditioning unit being out for 4 days. And they will get $300 off their unit. And they created work for you.
Yeah, I feel like renting is definitely like a part-time job. Like if you want to handle all those issues, it's like a 24/7 on call. I've always like whenever I think about like could I take on something like that, it wouldn't be. It's like there's gonna be like extra work, and everyone's always like trying to like nickel and dime, and then it's like, yeah, it's just like it's like a
certain people
part-time job sort of thing.
Certain people will nickel and dime you, and I can't say who because it's incorrect, and I'll be considered, racist or derogatory or whatever, or sexist. But there are certain people who I tend to continue to get who cause these issues for me, or who make up problems that don't exist in order to save $1 at the expense of my time. So, but in the end, it's totally worth having an Airbnb if you're not going to be home. So if you're like waiting to sell your place and you don't want to be home because you fucking hate the city, like in my case, then it makes perfect sense to deal with that shit,
So does City of Ottawa, do they like find your Airbnb thing, and then does City of Ottawa contact Airbnb to shut it down until you provide documents? That's interesting. Because so then like Airbnb doesn't like request those documents up front. They just kind of let you put the listing, and then it's sort of like up to the city to like monitor.
I told them that I was exempt. I bypassed because I tried to do things correct, and then the city wanted all that shit, and I'm like, fuck you. I don't want to give you all those details, and I don't want to pay you money. You're already taking enough out of the fees as it is. They take so much money. They take like 13%, and then Airbnb takes like 13%. And
Oh
so
yeah.
like, I have a guest coming on the 11th, and he's paying $2,400, and I'm getting 1,700 of that. So all
Yeah.
that delta is going to City of Ottawa and Airbnb. It's fucking crazy. It's a crazy amount of money to be taking.
It's kind of weird too that like the city, like for the floor plan, like the city should have all plans in a department and just know that stuff. They should be sending you the floor plan.
That's a really good point, actually. I'm gonna actually bounce that back to them. Like, don't you guys have the
Yeah,
fucking
because
floor
doesn't
plan?
yeah, like wouldn't like if I owned a building and I wanted the floor plan, I would probably have to request the floor plan from the city, right? Like request it from the city, get it, then send it back to the city.
You raise a good point. Yeah, because I was like, where do I get the floor plan from? Oh, the strategy, but
Maybe it's like maybe they
or
want
strata board.
maybe like people maybe that's somehow like getting if you can get the floor plan, that's like proof that you uh like it's another way to prove you own the property or like another factor
Oh, you just give the title with
like
my
another
name
way
on
to
it.
get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that proves it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess the floor plan's probably not for that reason.
I don't know. Maybe they lost everybody's records, and this is how they're gonna. I don't know.
Yeah, that's their plan to like cover it up, collect all the records.
Hmm. So yeah, there's that. But I go back to Ottawa, deal with some military shit, and it wore me down really quick. And I talked about the gear analogy, I think, but I was starting to shift into second gear. I started to become more irritable, and
Mm.
I finished like a day at the spa as well beforehand to kind of like calm me down. And then I went into, and I started to unravel really quickly after I entered the military establishment. Like I was not in
Yeah.
good shape.
Yeah, when I left, the person I was working with like offered to like meet me in a third party location that was like not like I was like working with someone uh for like some compensation and I had to go meet them like in a military office where there would be military people and they're like some people like to meet like downstairs in a cafe like where there won't be military people and I was like cool, let's do that.
So I'm trying to deal with this mute thing here so I can stuff my face while I'm talking to you, but my
Yeah.
phone keeps like turning off after 30 seconds. So I'm just going to change that to never because I have to go do the enter the passcode and do this and do that. So there we go. But
Yeah, too
yeah,
bad a lot of computers should just know if we're actively chatting, then it should just not go to sleep.
yeah, on my phone, my iPhone 8. But yeah, man.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of like little microaggressions. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like just walking in hallways past other people in uniform, like you just see like the way they react and talking to anyone at like a desk and they give you like attitude. It's really like grinding very quickly.
hmm, the people I interacted with were all pleasant and kind, but it's just the bureaucracy, right? It's the layers and layers of bureaucracy and forms and rules and checking in, and I just like the collars around my neck. I
Yeah.
don't want the collar around my neck anymore. I don't want to serve.
Yeah.
I hate the organization. And I don't like our government,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't
I
want
also
nothing to do
left
with
with
it.
that impression. Yeah. Yeah. It really felt like the values that everyone associates with Canada are not upheld in practice. And it's like the impression is like, why would we expect them to be? But it's like, because you told us those were the values and we're in Canada and why they're good values, why would we not have them? And they don't seem to really see it that way or something.
Yeah, man, and it seems like only the fucking psychopaths or sociopaths make it to the senior leadership positions because
Mm.
I'm tired of dealing with them. Honestly, there's some good ones out
Yeah.
there, but yeah. So anyway, um, I suspected as well, hearing from other people's experiences, that getting support and care that you need if you're broken is challenging, and when you're tired, exhausted, and trying to get the help that you need, you don't really have the bandwidth to do so.
Mm.
So I wanted to kind of like do all this while I had some life still left in me. And I spent pretty much the last year working to get my compensation in place. So
Mhm.
I'm set. I have a golden ticket that's being printed, and um, my case is legit, but it's like I've taken the time to build it while not working because it's literally a full-time job. And if you wait until
Mm.
after you release, you're fucked because none of the doctors want to deal with you.
Oh yeah.
And you need that in order to you need their diagnosis, their assessment, their signature in order for you to get your payouts. And
Mm.
so yeah, so I got ahead of it so that I can be covered when I get out. But anyway, circling back, started to shift into second gear. I became irritable, and my partner is with me, and I'm just like, we need to get the fuck out of Ottawa. We need to get out of here like as soon as possible. And we did.
Mhm.
And then we had a long weekend on like this private island with our community, not a cult, but it's the final
Mm.
opportunity because the island's being sold.
Right.
And we had a great time, but I was already kind of in second gear. Some things happened, some things were said, and I didn't feel stable or strong. And I felt like kind of needy and unbalanced. And I kind of like, I normally when I'm in third gear, I want to give and support, and I'm happy. And I've already identified that when I'm starting to shift into second gear, I don't want to give. I don't want to do it because it's going to lead to resentment. It's going to lead to
Mm.
me keeping a ledger. So instead of me forcing myself to do it like I would used to, I just say no. I don't want to give right now. I don't want to do that favor. You ask for it, but no, not in the position to do it because I don't want to keep a ledger. So do it yourself.
Mm.
The only exception is like if someone really needs help, then I help them. But if it's just like, oh, can you run and do this thing for me or grab beer for me? It's like, yeah, no.
Mm.
And we have to be able to say no because I don't want to keep a ledger. I'm not in a position. I don't want to give. And I was not in a position to give. So, I spent time on this with my partner in the community during the weekend, and I feel unstable, unbalanced. And then there was an opportunity for me to play piano for like this yoga class. And I was kind of like overtaken by fear. And I had a hard time communicating that because that fear of playing and performing is linked to some trauma. And so trying to talk to
Sure.
my partner about it because she was leading the yoga class, there was some tension there. But I just had a really hard time like c- communicating what I needed and also like
Yeah.
absorbing any sort of like confrontational energy. Like I had a
Right.
really hard time like doing that and then being elegant about it and like responding gracefully. So I kind of like I started to shift into first gear. And I just like, I'm not okay. She's like, okay, I'll give you space. And I sat by myself for a little bit and I just kind of like did some triaging and a little bit of first aid and eventually was able to get back up again, still kind of like in second gear. And near the end of the weekend, then I started to become third gear again because, I was able to sleep. But I also had some gut stuff going on too. Like a lot of people weren't feeling that good in the guts. I think maybe some foods weren't, you know,
Right.
good. And I also
Mhm.
noticed too, because I was in pain, that was also wearing me down.
Yeah.
So all this stuff was good. And so when conditions are ideal, your environment is stress free, you're working out, you're sleeping well, you're surrounded by great people. It's easy to be in third gear. But when you're stressed, say working for a job that you fucking hate, or let's say there's money issues or interpersonal issues, and stress starts to add up and your lifestyle starts to crumble a bit, it's hard to give. It's hard to be in third gear. And yet
Mhm.
that's what brings me joy. And I'm sure it brings other people joy as well, giving and being in that gear because you got energy and you want to connect with others. And really it's through connecting with others that brings joy, as long as they're good people. So it's like comes down to environment, the career that we have picked, and the people we surround ourselves with on a daily basis, the decisions, the routine, whether or not we're active, so the decisions that we make or don't make, the routine that we honor or don't honor, and all that is kind of like linked together.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's like for me, I feel sometimes like spiraling, and if I'm in a good environment, then it's easier to reverse the spiral and start recovering. But if there's like annoyances in the environment, if things are continuing, then it's like more fuel to the fire. And so yeah, it makes sense. Like the environment and how the things we do can can help us heal or move us further into debt.
Well, environment's everything. I mean, when you think about it, it
Mhm.
shapes evolution.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy to think like if you have like if you surround yourself with the ideal environment, it's like a superpower ish thing where like you can't not achieve your goals if everyone around you is sort of pushing you in the direction that you want to go in. Like you don't have to do anything. You just kind of like ride the wave. But then yeah, it's too bad like a good environment is not free. It does seem like we have to constantly work at like in maintaining this environment and acquiring it.
yeah, and like, what is that environment? I would say it's a good community and a place where you can live comfortably and be stable, and like meet with the community often.
Yeah, I've seen the best community for me that I've seen is like people working in like game development, especially at like the like indie game development level, like small studios. They're always like such like interesting people that are like talented and smart in many different fields. And they're always like very in tune with like what what is what in society is an annoyance and what is like something that they like, and they're very like clear about that. And then they're very welcoming, like everyone brings something to the table. They're very like patient and understanding and not like very the opposite of greedy. uh
Are they like that
yeah.
personally by default, or are they like that because they're in third gear, because they're in an environment
Mm.
that supports them and their dreams and what they want to do? Not just environment, but community. So I would say, like,
Mhm.
just like I'm kind of like that now too. And I think it's because I'm in a community where I feel supported and like I'm connected to something.
Yeah.
And being a part of something allows me, it means I don't feel alone. And if everybody else is living a healthy lifestyle and, health focused and, all about reducing their carbon footprint and, giving back and, being creative, expressing themselves, having a good time, having fun, if we all have that in common, and it feels good to belong to something like that. And then when you're comfortable with community, I find like, and they all have kind of similar interests, like lifestyle and all the other stuff, like healthy lifestyle, it kind of builds you up and it kind of unleashes your max potential. So like I wonder, it's like these people, they're all like this, likely because they're surrounded by people who are like that. So
Yeah.
it's like, where does it start though? Does it start with like one person or two people coming together and then building that community? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how people find that kind of community, but it's interesting to me that like a lot of people in games have something like something very like they're part of like some kind of social or physical minority group where like clearly they like stand out in society in terms of their like they like stuff like autism or something. Like they'll have something that like they can't function, like it's a noticeable thing that removes them from like what you'd consider like the normal sort of type of atypical person like in society. And so with that, you'd think, you'd think that they would face more friction, especially in some places. And that maybe some of that, some of their like some people in the games industry like self-describe themselves as like often depressed, but then they're surrounded by all these people and community. And then on top of that, like the average person you meet in games will self-describe as like poor and like but has a bunch of roommates, like doesn't want to spend much on groceries, and then but they'll be like so certain that what they're doing and who they're surrounded with is like the perfect place they want to be. And it's almost like part of that becomes like in order to be like a full community member, you almost want to be like in a position where the thing you're passionately working on is necessary for income, and you want to sort of trade opportunities with the people around you and like split the bills and stuff to like make the dream happen or something. And that's kind of the and so then everyone is like really like happy about where they are, even though if you had any stress, you look at the list of stuff they have to deal with and it's like really intimidating. So it's impressive that like just the community connection seems to allow them to like not worry about that stuff and know they're in the right place, even though like there's like these signals that are like, they're it's like, what about retirement and what about like income and what about like all these different things.
It's interesting that you say that because about like people living together like that. Because I had a friend who's pretty much like that, who lived with a bunch of roommates, and they were gamers. Now they played video games. They weren't like developers or anything like that. They all worked their day jobs. But it's like reminds me of my days of living in a group home. I actually
Mhm.
I didn't mind those days. I really liked being able to come back, and yeah, there was some fucking shitheads in the house for sure that should
Mhm.
not have been in that home. But before they were there and after they left, because eventually they got booted, things were really good. And I think it's something about community. And I didn't have to split any bills or anything like that because we didn't have to pay for ourselves. At least in these group homes, like after you get 18, then you got to fend for yourself in the CAS. But
Mhm.
that's when I joined the military. But yeah, it's like splitting the bills and like sharing costs and stuff like that is a really smart move. I like it.
Mhm.
Or you could just have no costs and mooch off of people. I mean, that works too. Just cat sit for the rest of your life.
Yeah, just go from chained together like 60 years of cat sitting jobs and never just live off that. Share the cat food.
I think that's a pretty good life. Yeah, so like I'm wanting to sell my place in Ottawa, but I'm gonna wait till the spring. I decided to pace
Mhm.
myself and deal with my release first and getting everything set up. And my
Yeah.
naturopath program, because I want to do naturopath medicine when I have the bandwidth and ability to go back to school. I want to do that, and one of the programs is in University of Toronto, so it gives me a reason to stay. Now, Ontario is what it is, Ontario, Ontario, but I don't want to be in Vancouver. fuck Vancouver. I'm happy with Vancouver Island, but I don't want to be on the mainland.
Yeah.
That place is way too overpriced. I mean, Toronto's terrible, but Vancouver's worse.
Right.
So I have an appointment with my naturopath doctor for Wednesday. We're gonna go and like catch up because I've, took supplements and got a food panel test, and I'm starting to feel tremendously better. And I want to give him the updates so he knows where I'm at, and then do some more blood work. But also, he's actually happy to let me know what to expect with the program because he did the program in Toronto. Took him 4 years, so I want to do it too. I'm really fascinated in naturopath medicine, and I want to help people. I've been actually chatting with friends, and they're a lot of my friends they're getting older, 35 plus, and they have a whole bunch of health issues. And I can just be like, I'm just talking about my own journey, and they're like seeing similarities, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, look at your nails. If there's like vertical grooves or grooves in your nails that run vertically, it means you have a nutrient absorption issue, probably because you have low stomach acid. And they're like, oh, and they look at their nails, they're like, well, fuck, I have low stomach acid. And then that stems into many other things. If you don't have the ability to break down food, then you're not going to get as much nutrients from the food in your small intestine. And quite likely, most people have leaky gut or some sort of gut biome issue, because, well, various reasons. One is like their mother could have had a depleted biome, and your gut biome is passed to you when you're giving birth, when your mother gives birth to you, like through a vaginal birth. But if you were born C-section, you're fucked. You're not getting the biome passed to you unless they, reach up inside the mother and take the vaginal fluids and rub it all over the baby after the fact. I mean, if they do that, then I don't know what I'm talking about. But actually, now I need to figure that out because that's really interesting. And if they
Well, I've
don't
heard
do
of
that, if they don't
you need
do
like
that, Richard, then they
right.
should do that.
Yeah.
What's that?
Is a poop transplant related to this? I've heard of that as a way of like your gut
That's a
biome is
thing, yeah.
off. Yeah, and apparently like it's common, and I wonder if that's what's going on here. Like that's one of the solutions.
Yeah, but don't if the baby could just have the vaginal mucus rubbed all over them right after birth, that's probably the easiest way to get them kickstarted. But yeah, there's studies out there, and I need to actually look at them. The fecal matter transplant, which is interesting. I want to understand the chemistry, the biochem there, how that actually works. But apparently, personalities change, and I understand that because I went from being a grumpy fuck to being who I am now. Because when you're sick and your guts are twisted and killing you, like you're being stabbed or ripped apart by an animal every day, yeah, you're not going to be pleasant. You might have
Right.
moments where you can be okay, but then a lot of the time when you're in pain, it's really hard to be graceful or kind or benevolent or whatever. Like it's really fucking hard to be in third gear when you're dying inside. And when your skin's fucked and your hair's falling out and you got acne or rosacea and or you have other diseases that are manifesting from this. So yeah, personalities apparently change with fecal matter transplants. And it's likely because
Oh yeah.
they're not in agony, because it actually works and corrects their gut biome. But talking out of my
Right.
ass, pun not intended, because I haven't looked at the studies. But
Yeah.
I want to focus on the gut biome, as everything stems from there, and nutrition, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that I don't know. My impression of like the naturopath discipline is that parts of it are a bit of a stretch, but like anything that does have correct studies attached, and if you can do tests like blood tests that are medical tests that like reveal levels, and then if the plan is like, like a lot of like modern medical drugs are created obviously from like various plants and things, as like aspirin comes from a plant and then it's like post processed. And so if like part of the reasoning is like this nutrient that you're deficient in can be found in this plant, and we extract it from the plant and then make it into a drug, and like then you get that drug, then it has like it's reasonable to expect like there's an effect there. But when there's like sort of a division between like certain drugs are like prescribed by a pharmacy, and if something's like prescribed, you could expect that it has like side effects and a main like an active ingredient. But then when there's like, if there's like a bunch of naturopath stuff on like a shelf that anyone could buy, and the like if it's like the unregulated section where there's no claimed active ingredient, then it starts to get into like, well, if there's no active ingredient and it's safe for anyone because in like by definition it doesn't do anything, then it gets into this territory of like maybe it's more like the person is healing because they're just taking
Believe it.
care of themselves, yeah. And
Or
that's still
you
like
know,
real healing, I guess, yeah. But then there's like, I guess the gray area is like, what if they have something real that's wrong with them and they're delaying that other treatment because they believe like this like off the shelf thing is good, and that means they actually like don't get the more intensive treatment that they need for longer, and
yeah,
it makes it worse. And yeah, so there's like a
yeah,
danger there, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. Steve Jobs died because of that.
Yeah, I've heard that's like a
He had
famous
cancer.
example. Yeah, like so much money,
Yeah.
but made that mistake. Yeah.
Well, he wanted to go the natural way, and somebody was telling me
Yeah.
about they know the truth, and there is something that you can take. It was some sort of seed, apricot seed or something, and you grind it up. And it's not available here. You have to grind your own apricots or whatever, but you have to take it in such copious amounts that it's ridiculous. And I gotta remember who said this because they might be onto something, and I kind of want to test it if I could figure out what the hell they were saying. But
Well, I've
basically,
heard
they
that,
get
but that
they
stuff,
get,
those kind of seeds, like they can have like bad stuff in them too. Like I know cherry seeds have like cyanide in them, and if you
yeah, apple
did,
seeds do too. But
you know, yeah, like if you were trying to concentrate that and then take it, it could be bad.
yeah,
Uh,
but Buddy was saying that there was something in this apricot seed, or I'm guessing it's apricot seed. It's a big seed that ground it up, and he said he gave it. He was saying to his father to do this instead of going for conventional cancer medicine or therapy. Like, do this and consume this on a daily basis, copious amounts, and then cancer went away. So it's great. I'm glad it worked out, but he explained that the reason is because it just kickstart the immune system and yada yada yada. I can't remember, and that's really cool and all if it's legit, because your body is supposed to on its own beat cancer. It does that actually.
yeah,
Um,
there's like yeah, it's called spontaneous like remission. And I don't know
but
if it's
like
the body winning or if it's just like a luck thing.
but your body ultimately does it all. Like, your body
Mm.
keeps things in check. And so if cells don't behave correctly, if I'm not mistaken, the macrophages come in and consume it. Your body has defenses against cancer cells. It's just when the cancer cells go undetected, or they become, if there's too much and they start to like overwhelm your body and shut down organs. And that could be because environmental stuff. It could be because of toxins, perfume, for instance, chemicals, things that our body should not be exposed to, that mutate the DNA. And not just like in one small area, but like in large areas. UV radiation is also like notorious for like skin cancer and shit, because apparently the ozone has more holes in it or something. Don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, until, and I don't know if people actually legitly like prove that the apricot crush seed, I don't know if it's apricot, it just as a placeholder until I figure it out. If that actually legitimately cures cancer and someone tries to put that out, they're going to be fucking assassinated because just like the hair loss industry, cancer is profitable. They don't want you to cure cancer. Like, you really got to think. And this is where I'm going to start becoming like negative, but all these corporations, it's all about making money and lining their pockets. And you got big food and big pharma. And big food is getting away with fucking murder because they're putting a lot of shit in our food that shouldn't be in there. Like, and they're hiding it under proprietary terms like natural flavor, which is in almost everything now. But that's just another sneaky word that could hide a whole shit ton of ingredients, MSG included.
Mm.
Apparently, they're supposed to list MSG. It's supposed to be a legal requirement, but now they can hide it under natural flavor. So watch out, dude.
Mm.
Natural flavor. Look for that in all the food that you consume. Look how many times that you come across natural flavor will blow your fucking mind away.
I see it a lot actually in sparkling water, and I look at the back and they don't like list anything. So I wonder then
Yeah,
if there is, yeah, like if they just don't have to list it at all. I wonder what's
just
going on.
natural flavor, man. That's where they
Yeah,
hide
well,
everything.
the latest one I saw was like natural flavor with other ingredients, and it was like worded specifically. I felt so that they like because if they said natural flavor, it would be like, oh, like it's a peach drink, so like naturally flavored with peach, but it's like naturally flavored with other ingredients. So it's like, okay, so it's natural, but it's like you don't want to say what it is, what it is, or whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's fucked. So, like, food
Mm.
companies are able to get away with more and more. And here's another observation: more and more, sugar is becoming the first ingredient. Never seen this before until the last year. I went to my family house, summertime, early summertime, and I'm looking at all their junk food because, yeah, they're basically like most households. They got lots of box processed high fructose corn syrup garbage.
Mm.
And I'm looking at what are some of the even healthier options they have. And I'm doing like bunny ears over here. Sugar is the first fucking ingredient. Organic yellow golden cane sugar is still fucking sugar. And it's the first ingredient in like an oat bar, for instance. I'm like, my God. I used to think that oat bars were healthy. Yeah, you really got to watch for it. And here's another funny thing too. I discovered with my food panel test that I can't. I have a elevated response to sunflower seeds. While
Right.
sunflower oil is in everything, including almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk, soy
Mm.
milk. It's in everything, dude. They put coconut oil in, no,
Yeah.
sunflower oil in everything.
Mm.
And I respond to it. Now, I don't know if I respond to it like a recent thing because it's in everything I was eating, or I'm responding to it because I've always responded to it and they just started to put it in everything and it just started to overwhelm my immune system because in the last year or
Mm.
so, I thought it was dairy and it probably was dairy as well. I was having some dairy a couple years ago, but I was eating a lot of foods that had sunflower oil in it and my guts were killing me. Rosacea was out of control. Inflammation was high. And now that I watch for this because I know from my food panel tests that I have an intolerance to it, this has been game changing, dude.
Yeah.
I've been living. I have like completely different quality of life, but it's quite
Mm.
literally dodging mines everywhere. And can you imagine like not being able to see all the mines when you're walking and just constantly walking into them? I can now see more of them. I don't know if I can see all of them, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool to uncover something like that.
yeah. But all I have to say is like it seems like they're all about each other because we get sick and inflamed and get diseases. the specialists, do their flexing and prescribe their medications and do their surgeries. And no, it comes down to, in the end, big pharma being able to produce expensive medications covered by our OHIP or whatever, if it's even covered, because Blue Cross doesn't cover
Yeah.
fucking anything with a name brand on it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then eventually your disease progresses to cancer or fucking whatever. And it's not that yeah, okay, some people have a genetic predisposition to it, but come on, man, it's environmental. It's the toxins we're surrounded by, off-gassing of formaldehyde and our formaldehyding that's off-gassing in our new furniture. It's the perfume that we wear. It's the chemicals we clean our houses with. It's all that shit, and we're constantly exposed to it. When I watched the documentary called Stink, and I pulled everything out of my house that like had chemicals that weren't natural, and I had the word perfume in it. I filled my entire kitchen counter, and this thing was fucking long with these products.
Huh.
And it's like, what do I do with them? Because I know they're all garbage. Do I give it to my neighbor? Do I flush it down the fucking sink? What do I do with this? It's well, what I should have done was I should have just, if I had the time, spread it out and let the sun evaporate everything because the sun fucking annihilates everything and purifies everything. That's what the UV does. But yeah, it's like I did that and that was such an eye-opening experience for me. Like I had no idea. And it makes sense. And if you look at the blue zone studies over the last 20 years, blue zones have shrunk because of Western influence. What is Western influence outside of fast food and stress and, the easy
Mhm.
lifestyle? It's also the toxins. The areas that are isolated from that live off the land, that are, like they grow their own food, they have strong community and family, and they're active every day because they don't have everything to make life excessively easy. These guys live to be over 100.
Hmm.
So civilization is ultimately making us sick, or at least Western civilization is making us sick because it's profitable. So anyway, something I was thinking about. I don't know if YouTube is where we want to be. I think maybe we should like use Spotify podcasts or something. They have like a separate app for it. Maybe we should put our shit on
Yeah.
Spotify and take this stuff seriously. Because the stuff that we're talking about, can it can change lives. Let's just say it, like the stuff that I'm learning has been game changing. The journey that I have taken and the things that I'm sharing um, can help people who are going through a hard time with their health. And you have a lot to offer as well with your experiences. So
Yeah, I've done. Yeah, we have like separate knowledge. Maybe I can look into it. Spotify, I'm not sure the exact pathway to get on Spotify, but like you can definitely like run and host. Like you can sort of get a podcast distributed. Like it can go Apple Podcasts and the other networks pick it up, and like Spotify in some sense, it might actually pick it up from other sources or something. Uh, but yeah, maybe
yeah,
I'll
but
learn a bit more about it. I don't know if yeah, we could I have the audio files for like this one. But then we could also split off and like we could arrange something where like you can do like segments and then maybe I'll restart one of the ones that I had going or something. And if that, then we'd have like more like like themed topical feeds. And then this, like the show that we're sort of doing in this moment could be preserved as like the most, like a more casual, anything goes discussion.
I think we should keep it as anything goes discussion because
Yeah.
as we learn, as we grow in life and live life, we learn new things. And I think it's important to like share those things. So like whether I'm reading a book
Yeah.
or just like realizing things and writing my journal, being able to reflect on these things, these lessons learned. It's just taking it as you go. It's not something that's, created in advance with AI creating a bunch of fucking questions for some sort of guest that maybe people know. It's, just a genuine conversation between friends about what we're learning in life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not constantly learning like every moment, but like there's usually a lesson to take away from the experiences that I have. Just sometimes it's just not immediately apparent. Sometimes I have to reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah, and the first step was pressing record and posting it anywhere. That was an exercise of pushing through fear, at least for me.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah. Same.
institutionalized all my life and being told what to say and what to do. This was a conversation I was actually having with my friend today. Um, yeah, it's really hard to be able to express ourselves. We're afraid to do so. And my partner has never been institutionalized. Well, okay, school is technically an institution, but never been institutionalized by the military. And she's a free spirit who does what she wants and says what she wants and expresses herself and is super creative. And they talk to me about these amazing projects that she wants to do that involve hundreds of thousands of people, gigantic art displays. I'm like, fear stopped me from even beginning even the conceptual phase. Like, even imagining that intimidates the fuck out of me. And there she's just like, she wants to do this, wants to do that, wants to do here, wants to go there. Like it's
Right.
it's really cool to see someone who hasn't been institutionalized. But yeah, anyway, what I'm saying is that pushing through fear and breaking through our chains and by doing like this exercise of talking and posting it and all the other stuff, that was like a year ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like, I guess it kind of is easy to talk about stuff, but I can't believe that fear held me back from ever wanting to do that.
Mm.
But
Yeah. It's good we've like broken that down. Now, like if we wanted to deliver something that gains like a following, I think it needs like editing time. Like we need to take the files, like edit it so there's no silence. It's like reduced, a certain time per episode, introduction, outro. There's like some setup and work to do like around it. But at least yeah, we've solved the core problem of like we're comfortable talking about something that we find interesting. And yeah, we it would be interesting because it's so easy to just like record this like unedited, like however long thing, and then just put it up. And there's like very little work around that. But then trying to take what we have here and focus it a bit more where we get the same vibe of like it doesn't feel like we're doing any work, but we're producing content. And if we produce it right, then other people can sort of like latch onto it and get delivered value without having to spend like too long absorbing the stuff, like if we're rambling or something. But uh
but then they could
yeah.
just change it to 1.5 times speed
Yeah.
and crush through it faster, right? Like the
Hmm.
whole idea is to not spend a shit ton of time editing because then we won't want to do it. I mean, at least I'm
Yeah.
not passionate about that. I
Yeah,
don't know if
that's what
you
I
are.
feel. Yeah, I like to get like the content that comes out. uh I want that to be like proportional to like the amount of time that's spent like maintaining the art, like sort of the work that goes into publishing it. So yeah, if it's nice to have like very little, like a very easy pipeline that produces a lot of content. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's talk more about it, and so that your goals are met and what you want to see happens.
Yeah.
Um, we can keep it to 30 minutes, and but I don't want to start like structuring it. Like it's just kind of like talking about what it is we want to talk about, right? But like what I can do though is if we're gonna move forward, not be in a vehicle, not be cooking dinner, just like actually sit down and have a conversation. Because I can do that for I
Yeah.
can. We have to be able to make the time through 30 minutes wherever. I'm sure we can do that at least once a week. We carve the time out. I mean, we can do that. We can do that. It's harder for an hour.
Yeah, or even like podcast episodes could be short, or if we have several short episodes, we like squish them together. But a thing we could do is like we do this, we do like a 30-minute or an hour long conversation like in this feed, but then like near the end, we one of us could sort of monologue about something we learned or something. Then you just like clip that segment, and that becomes its own separate podcast or whatever. And then that could be like how we produce stuff. Like it's like me and you talk for an hour, and we publish that as like a casual thing. But then like if one of us has like a good like we sort of try to stimulate like a good rant moment, where then let's just like clip that rant, maybe it's 10 minutes or whatever, uh and then that gets published as like a more dense like 10 minutes of listening about like centered around one topic that's more just like delivering the message that we had. And then it's like fairly easy to just like cut that out of the longer audio feed and just throw it somewhere where it gets picked up by like Spotify or something. That would be one way to like create like that, a more focused like content pipeline, but preserve the casual discussion. And maybe people find both, and they get the added context and everything from like the longer casual discussion, and then they have like something they can sort of send around as like the meat of the thing that we've learned.
Hey, if you want to do it, buddy, run with it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Like I support it.
Yeah,
Um,
we can see like we can experiment with different things, I guess, and if something becomes easy and it works that way, then I guess if it's easy enough, it'll just keep going almost on its own.
yeah, and if it's something you really want to do too, please have at her. Let me know how I can contribute. Um, yeah, if you want to do something, just give her a try. Something I read today, and I'm just gonna pull it up here quickly because my partner sent it to me, part of a video.
Yeah, the easiest content for me is creating videos. I find for whatever reason, like like doing a monologue, like I write a script, I read the script, and then I collect related visuals and then publish that as like a YouTube video. That usually that usually feels the best. It feels like the most flexible form of content. I can sort of do whatever I discuss whatever I want. It's got the visuals and audio, and it feels like a real product. Podcast Yeah, podcast is harder to get like excited about. Like there's nothing to like show people. You can show them like the logo or something, but if they want to be like, is it a good podcast? They have to like listen to it. They can't just sort of glance through and see like the value. The value is kind of more hidden or something.
Yeah, perhaps there could be like for each episode, sort of like a write up. I've seen that with TLDR,
Mm.
where they have like a quick like synopsis of like what to expect.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
that's another
wild
thing. What's that?
that we have so many platforms that we chat on that I can't seem to find.
Yeah, yeah.
So interesting.
Well, I'll probably head out. You could. Is this like a video? You could send me a link after.
But no, basically, what it was saying is that when you are being creative, you can make no mistakes.
Mm.
So there's no making a mistake when you're being creative. You're creating
Yeah.
something. There are no mistakes. So it
Yeah.
was talking about like perfectionism and being afraid to try new things and all that other stuff. Like if you're creating something and it's yours and you're trying it out, you're playing, you're exploring, and there's no mistakes that you can make with that. And I thought it was actually pretty insightful. And now I'm gonna go crazy trying to find out which platform this is on because I can't seem to track it down. All right, buddy.
Just
I'll talk to you
recreate
later.
it. Yeah, I'll see
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye.